Call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's welcome everyone here, and we'll start with the town manager's report.
Short and sweet tonight. The offices will be closed on Thursday and Friday for Thanksgiving. Want to remind everybody to please support local businesses on Saturday, the Small Business Saturday. And Top Hat School of Dance is holding a dance recital in the Opera House on December 8th at 2 p.m. That's all I got.
Okay. Any items by the public? Nothing?
Bicycles
This is
tomorrow.
Jason's
Come get desserts, and next Thursday night we have Lakes to Remember ceremony. Beeline Cable and Brookfield. Do want to thank them from hospice side. They light up the trees every year beside the firehouse. Spend a lot of time doing that, and spend some money doing those for us. Those stay lit through the holiday season to remember loved ones that are passed. So you get a minute to stop by, and we'll have multiple angel trees throughout the community. The holiday stroll parade, Readington Memorial Home, the information center, and at the Methodist Church festival going on in a couple weeks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Selectmen's items. Betty.
I should say that I had a business owner tell me that Officer Chris did such a good job at their business taking care of things, and they're really pleased with Officer Chris. And I did want to say too that it was a wonderful time at the retirement for Linwood. You firefighters or whoever organized all that did a great job, and there were a lot of people there. He worked there for a long time, so a lot of people know him. And I just want to thank the police officers and the road crew and the fire department. You know, when we have weather like we've had and will have in the next few days, they're out there working when we can just be in our houses and turn the heat up. And other than that, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Roger.
I'd like to give a shout out to Chief Bucknam and Officer Dagnow for coming into the MSAD 54 transportation facility and giving a Q&A on some issues we're having on bus safety and school safety. It was pretty interesting. A lot of questions were asked and answered. Appreciate it.
All set, thank you.
And I also would like to congratulate Linwood on his retirement, and hopefully, you know, now he can sit back and enjoy his retirement. And that was a nice retirement party up there. It was well put. Matt did a nice job on the video, and he is going to be missed here, and it's going to be hard to fill his shoes. He's been here for a long time, so I'd just like to congratulate him, and I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully everybody stays safe and enjoy family. Department and committee reports. Brian, you're going first. Come on!
He's ready.
Awesome, Brian.
Sean.
I guess I want to, here in public and on the record, just thank Linwood Corson for over 40 years of service to this community. 40 great years of service, a dedicated employee who truly is going to be missed. Linwood, you know, for all of us at the station, Linwood has always been there for our entire careers, everybody at that station. And so it's going to be different today. And while we're sorry to see him go, we're going to miss him. I congratulate him on his retirement. Him and his wife Cindy, they're headed to Florida, and I know they're going to enjoy it, and they certainly deserve it. And it was a great time Friday night. It was nice to see everybody there. I know he enjoyed it. A little bit emotional at times even. instantly. So it's not to see him go, but certainly I'm very happy for him. I thank him for his service to this town. Thank you.
Chief?
So I would also like to say congrats to Linwood, and I got to see his event on Friday. It was exceptional up there. Look forward to my retirement from this place. If I get the same outpouring of support, it'd be amazing. So Jason will be there. But, it's with regret that I've got to inform you guys that Corporal Woodrow has resigned from Skowhegan Police Department. He's taken an opportunity in Fairfield to have some different benefits in his package that he decided was a good fit for him. So his last day with us will be on December 1st. We are going to rotate him into a reserve position here so that we can continue to utilize him when he is available here, because he has been a huge asset for this agency, and we're sorry to see him go. So if I could, with your authorization, if you wouldn't mind accepting his resignation, which will be December 1st.
So move.
Second.
First and second. All in favor? Kind of a weird way to put it, but not really in favor, but
In favor with regrets.
It's with regrets on the PD side as well. We hate to see him go, but Fairfield was hurting, and they made him an offer, and he just couldn't pass on. So it's going to be beneficial for him financially as well as family-wise as well. So thank you. With the holiday seasons coming this weekend, there's going to be a lot of traffic in and out of Skowhegan. I ask everybody please pay attention to the weather out there. If you want to meet a police officer, call us. We'll meet you at Dunkin' Donuts for a coffee. We'd rather not see you flipped up on your roof on the side of the road, and the fire department's going to come out and meet with you again as well. So just watch your speed out there. Pay attention to the temperatures, the rain, the snow that is expected to come over this week. And I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a safe one.
thank you. Brian?
All set, thank you.
Greg?
We took delivery of the new loader, the Doosan, on Monday. And I'm still down 2 guys, but hopefully the employee that's been out sick since September should be back to work next Monday or Tuesday. That'll help. And other than that, we just pretty busy trying to work out all the bugs. You know, because we do have some new drivers this year. And, the guys that've been here for years, they still have a few bugs ironed out, but we're getting there, and but morale's high, and things are going okay for us.
Jeff?
I'd like to ask that the selectmen, I think you do have the package in front of you, asking you to waive the bid process to do the emergency repairs on the fire escape. Money would come out of the capital reserves for repairs. As I say, we got the plans Monday, and Jeremy was able to turn around with an estimate to do it. There is a bunch of steel work that has to be done on it, plus the cement work, and we're going to try to have it done, but if you approve it by December 6th.
Make a motion that we approve.
Second.
We have a first and second in reference to this fix, and it is my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, when I say this, but I guess this is a temporary fix, so to speak, because something different needs to be put in permanently to be up to code. So eventually, at some point in time, it'll be brought back to the board, reference to a permanent fixture.
Right, Steve is looking at the whole thing, but we needed the emergency fix first, and then we'll go back to look at the rest of it. He has to do all the calculations, all this stuff at that point. Then we'll look at the long-term viability of it.
Anything further? All in favor? passes for them.
Just one more quick thing. I don't know if you guys know that the parking hill first phase has been completed. Came out real nice, and the landowners are very pleased with what we've done so far. And let them know.
Dad? Yeah.
Just wanted to let everyone know that this week started receiving things from the, started receiving printouts and emails from the Secretary of State to gear up for the March 3rd presidential primary. So we have until January to finish doing our voter participation history to the state. And I did complete that this week, figured that was one thing to get off my desk. And, but now we're receiving all of the paperwork to order supplies and get our printouts to them for if we're having any local election. But that is something that we're starting to gear up for. And when all that takes place, it's like another election, and it's going to be like another added expense that I believe towns are going to be responsible for. So it won't, I don't believe it will happen every year because, of course, it's not presidential every year. But I just wonder if we'll get into that for the other, like federal, you know, if we'll have a primary. We probably won't. Would you think, Betty? So, anyways, it's, you know, it'll happen every 4 years, but it's going to be taking place in March, so it'll be interesting to see what we have for a turnout and kind of like what the day brings, but they've already started to gear us up for it.
Thank you. Trish?
Health insurance premiums are going up January 1st, so the new increased rates for payroll start in December. They went up 9.43%. Dental and everything else stayed the same. And this year we got a dividend check from Mimic, and this year it was $13,002.72.
Thank you. I think that was all of it.
Yeah, I think so.
Now we will have a presentation. And we are going to present a certificate of achievement to Dalton Curtis. So if Dalton can come up front here, come to you here. All right, stand right over here. All right, stay right here. And right there. There we go. All right. I'm going to read this because I'll never remember it all. So, we are presenting a certificate of achievement to Dalton Curtis. He is recognition of your achievement as Eagle Scout. To earn the rank of Eagle Scout, the Scout must earn at least 21 merit badges and demonstrate leadership and community service by organizing and carrying out an Eagle project. For his project, Dalton donated 50 cancer care packages to the oncology patients at Reddington Fairview General Hospital. So, congratulate you for job well done.
Thank you.
And continue the great work. I think they want a picture.
Yeah, they want a group photo.
Yep. And you can go around and shake hands with everybody too. They're all over there now.
Congratulations.
All right, let's close it in. Everybody take a knee. Yeah, that's
Can't get everybody. It's two, I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dalton, how long did it take you to get to this point?
A couple of years.
Yeah? That's pretty good. Most of them a lot longer than that. Congratulations.
And again, congratulations for a job well done. And now we'll have a presentation from Christina Cannon on the Run the River.
Hello. So, you all have this document in front of you, and I wanted to go through it. Christine and I traveled to 3 different whitewater parks this summer and fall. 2 of them were specifically to go see their adjustable surf waves, because we have learned that surfing has become pretty popular out west, so river surfing, which was a really cool activity to see. And then we visited Columbus, Georgia this past fall. They have a river that's similar to ours in velocity and size, and so it was really important for us to go visit that water park as well to kind of get an idea on how construction would look in our river. So I put together some bullet points and some photos for you all to see from our trip. So we started out in Bend, Oregon back in July. They have a couple of kayak features which are static, and then they have an adjustable wave that's for surfers, and you can see in the picture there, they have, there are several surfers surfing that wave, and that was on a weekday morning where people were out enjoying that surf wave. So they've seen a lot of success with their whitewater park, and there's a new residential building with market rate condos overlooking the whitewater park, or that's scheduled for construction, and the person that bought that paid $50 a square foot. So, and it wasn't for sale, but it happened to be land that was right next to the whitewater park, and so people considered that a prime location to put up a building, so with some condos in it, because people want to live near these whitewater parks. Another thing that we thought was particularly interesting was that the city of Bend sent out a concessions RFP for an outfitter to run programming and to rent gear to visitors. And so Tumalo Creek makes approximately $500,000 on rentals and programming, and gives 25% back to the municipality for $125,000. So as we talk about our whitewater park and how we'll see any sort of return on investment from that, this is a good model for us to at least consider. So, and you're going to see that they do that in Columbus in a similar fashion. During the peak season, they see a ton of tubers go through their whitewater park also. So over 10 weeks, they see 250,000 people go down through in tubes. And so that is about 2,500 to 3,000 people daily. And the reason that's important, I think, is because we consider tubing a possibility in our river, and I think that opens up the accessibility to people, particularly locals and those visitors who don't have whitewater skill set. So you don't have to know how to get into a whitewater kayak. You don't have to know how to surf. You don't have to know how to stand up paddleboard, but you can get in a tube or a boogie board and go down our river, and it'll be a fun way to spend the afternoon. So, and
I did it.
yeah, it was fun. The river was freezing, but we did it anyway, and it was fun. So just something for us to keep in mind as we think of all the different user groups that we can attract to our whitewater park. So, then we traveled to Boise, Idaho, and they have a couple of they have one surf feature, which actually, I would say there's some discussion about this, but I think it's probably the best in the country. And it's particularly for people who have a higher surfing skill level. And actually our architect that we've been working with, McLaughlin Whitewater, built this surf wave. So that makes me feel good knowing that they have the skill set to do that, if that's something we decide to consider in our river. So the city employee that we met with, they actually both of these parks had wave technicians, and we met with both of their wave technicians who, their job is to adjust their surf wave. So they pay attention to the CFS coming out through the river, and they have a couple of different factors because there's irrigation out there that we don't have to worry about, but they actually adjust the plates and the hydraulics in the surf waves to make the wave ideal based on river flow. And so when we met with Paul out in Boise, he was giving us some anecdotal information on how he's seen the community around the Whitewater Park grow. And he said that he bought his house a short distance from the Whitewater Park 5 to 6 years ago, and the value has increased 3 to 4 times since then with the growth and the popularity of the Whitewater Park. There is a set of new condos that a developer is building right next to the surf wave actually, and there's also an open air bar and food truck business that opened in that neighborhood as well, and it was a pretty rundown neighborhood that's starting to come back right next to that Whitewater Park. So, and that was in Boise. In Columbus, Georgia, they have, as I mentioned, their river, and you can see on that page, the top photo shows how wide their river is. And it's similar in size to the Kennebec. And so their Whitewater Park, though, is bigger than what ours will be. Theirs actually goes 2.3 miles. And so they actually have a large rafting community, which is not what that is not what ours is planning for. We have a much shorter run with fewer whitewater features, so that's why we're focused on the kayakers, the surfers, the tubers, the boogie boarders, that sort of thing. But we did go down in duckies while we were there, which are little inflatable kayaks, and it was super fun, and I think and actually Dead River Expeditions, I believe, has duckies, and so that's something that we'll see happening in our river even without the Whitewater Park there probably. So not to the same level of fun, because the Whitewater is certainly not the same level that it will be once we put the Whitewater Park in, but still a cool thing that Christine and I did, and had a great time going down through on duckies. We spent hours with their engineer, and he showed us all sorts of photos of how they did construction in the river and all the steps they had to take to get construction in the dry, and in some cases they actually had to do construction in the wet as well, and they sent divers down. So they created what they called grout bags with they didn't call them that, but they were grout bags that were nylon bags that they figured out the size, the location that they needed this bag in, and they measured it and cut it right on the riverbank and sewed it up and actually poured grout into this bag and then dropped it down into the river to help with the construction process. So it was a really interesting way of going about doing it, and will help us as we look toward our construction process here. And they harvested rocks right out of the river to build their to build their features. And so that's something, in other places we've seen concrete be used as a way of funneling water into a feature. And that's not something that I think I or anyone else in Skowhegan would like to see, concrete barriers in our river. So I think harvesting rocks, so they're native rocks to our river, is the direction that we want to go. And that's what they did in Columbus. So good lesson learned there as well. I know that we've, over the years, had some discussion about flooding and what that will do to the Whitewater Park. So this was actually, in 2015, Columbus had a flood on Christmas Day, and the water was running at 94,000 CFS. And the water was 15 feet up over the platform on the river walk. And it was up to the light poles. And none of the features budged in the river. So that is really really good news as we look at 100-year flood levels out here, and the fact that it's likely to flow right over the top of the Whitewater Park and not affect or impact our whitewater features. While we were there, we learned that 3 new hotels were being built right in downtown Columbus. In the historic Mill District, which is right where we were, where the Whitewater Park is, there were 80 to 88 condos built 10 to 12 years ago as the river started to come back, and apartments that had been built a couple of years back, and they are all full, and they're right on the river next to the Whitewater Park. And then similar to Bend, Columbus commissioned an outfitter. So Whitewater Express is their only outfitter that runs the river, and they have a permit to do so. And they run trips and lessons and rafts and the duckies that Christine and I did. There's also a zip line that they have constructed over the river. It goes back and forth in a couple of places. And so Whitewater Express is that outfitter. And they counted, in 2018, they had data that said that 4,300 of their customers stayed in hotel rooms in Columbus, so bringing people to town, and 50,000 people went down the river and enjoyed the zip line in 2018 as well. 85% of these people traveled more than an hour to get to their Whitewater Park, and so like in Bend, Whitewater Express pays the city fees to use the park. And actually, when Christine and I signed up for our ducky trip, we paid a river user fee. So they pass it on to the customer to pay a user fee, and then they pay the city. So they pay about $250,000 annually to be the sole outfitter on the river. So, and then the city in turn in turn puts about 60,000 of that back into marketing to promote the Whitewater Park and the river and activities like that in Columbus. And we also learned, we talked to the chief of staff for the mayor's office, and he said that they did a study back in 2010, and since then they've seen an increase in gross receipts in their downtown businesses by 45%. So 2010 was when they did that study. The Whitewater Park was built in the window of 2011 to 2013, so they suspect that that has played a role in that gross receipt income increase. So just some good information that we gathered. I'm working on compiling some of this as well as some other data from our economic impact study and other pieces of information I've been gathering into a return on investment document that we're going to put in front of donors in the coming months. And so that's in the works at the moment. A new rendering is also in the works, and we still are waiting on some grants. So, any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your research.
It was a little bit of fun too.
As I say, this is all work. I mean, come on. Let's be honest here.
Still, thank you.
Fun research, yeah.
Consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Regular agenda, discussion decision to appoint Daniel Dickey to the Lake George Board of Directors with a term expiring June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the application for malt license for Pizza Hut, 318 Madison Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
We have first and second, any discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the malt spirituous Venice license for Heritage House Restaurant, 182 Madison Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
We have first and second, any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to approve the application for parades and processions to allow Main Street Skowhegan to hold the Holiday Stroll Parade in Whoville on December 6, 2019 at 7 p.m. and December 7th, 2019, 6 a.m. until 3 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
We have first and second, any further discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion and decision to waive the bid process, expend an amount not to exceed $15,615.82 from the Highway Department Vehicle Repairs Account to repair the Lee Bear loader.
So moved.
Second.
The first and second, any further discussion? Except for hopefully whoever is greasing it, what's greasing it right, I guess. Any further? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to expend an amount not to exceed $839.14, $262.58 from the Coben Charity Women's Aid Society Trust Fund, $126.94 from the Lydia Bradford Women's Aid Trust Fund, and $449.62 from the John R. McClellan Women's Aid Society Trust Fund for Skowhegan Women's Aid.
So moved.
Second.
First, we have first and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Dennis? You good? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to expend an amount not to exceed $5,273 from the energy efficiency rebates to drain, flush, and treat the pipes at the community center.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion?
What caused this?
The pipes up there are a steel pipe. In this building, they're mostly copper. Up there, they're steel. Every summer, the heating system basically shuts down and it just basically rusts on the inside. That's basically what's happened on that. It hasn't been treated over the years. There is a treatment you can put into the water that will help delay that. But that's where it's come from. It's come from the rusting on the inside of these pipes and stuff. We're looking at going in and draining, flushing them multiple times, and then put a treatment into it and then bring it back up. We're hoping the treatment will react to the inside and actually delay any further deteriorations, but we've already had 2 leaks. Bring it back up this year in the pipelines themselves. So we're hoping that this will do to give us as many years as possible in this system.
Why aren't we replacing these pipes? Because obviously whatever damage has been done through the years is done. I mean, I don't know it's...
But it's not done. It's a process that's been going on and stuff. So we have gone in and welded those spots that have had the pinhole leaks and stuff. But to replace the line, we're talking a lot more money.
Well, I get that, but if all of a sudden we do this and spend $5,000 and then we have another mishap and all of a sudden water goes everywhere, it's going to be a whole lot more costly.
Yes, because we can't guarantee it's not gonna. The problem is, once you start replacing the pipe, where do you stop? Because I could do 50 feet of it, and it's the 51 feet that blows the hole. This is a stopgap so that we can start planning down the road on how you're going to take care of this in the future. Because sooner or later, you're going to have to replace the lines in that building.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, is this the time to do that, or throw this out and hope that we don't have any further issues?
You're talking roughly $250,000 to replace those heating lines up there.
Well, then we probably should start making steps to save the money to do it, because, I mean, eventually it's gonna happen. I mean...
That's the whole idea of this, is that in planning, we do put some money aside, so and it may be that we find a different way of heating and cooling that system down the road, because they're coming out with new stuff all the time. So you may not want to put that type of system in 10 years from now. But you couldn't do the replacement at this time of year anyway, because you'd have to take the hit system down 100% to do that. So even if you wanted to go that way, you'd have to get into summertime to do that.
The 2 leaks in question, were they near each other, or were they?
About 25 feet different apart from each other.
So that's pretty close.
In the same line.
Yeah.
But there's like 4 of those lines of that size that run in that corridor.
Yeah. Just trying to think maybe it's in just one section, or...
That's what I was kind of hoping too, but no, it's about 25 feet between the two. So
that'd be wishful thinking, probably.
This treatment, do you have an estimate for?
It's about $400 for the treatment itself.
But the longevity of it, and it's probably hard to come up with.
Basically what they tell me is that every couple of years you should test that water and see how it's reacting, how much of a sediment that you get out of it, and they can tell you if you should treat it again or what at that point. I did reach out to Mark Tracy because he had worked on that system too, and he said that In a lot of places that have steel boilers, he has a few school departments that have steel boilers and stuff, that they have to do a treatment about every 4 to 5 years. Because those are $250,000 boilers and stuff, and he has to treat those fairly regularly. But I think they test like every year or every other year, and then treat every 4 or 5 years.
Thank you.
Anything further?
These pipes have never been treated, right? Is that true?
I don't think they've ever been flush treated or anything
No.
at the moment, because when we actually did some flushing, some minor flushing to see if we could find out what the issues was, some of them were black.
Yeah.
Using the water out of them. It was really bad.
Thank you.
Anything further? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision to award the protective clothing bid. The following bids were received. Bergeron Protective Clothing, $13,211.46. IPS, $15,432. Chief Howard recommends awarding a protective clothing bid to Bergeron Protective Clothing with a total bid amount of $13,211.46 and expend an amount not to exceed $13,500 to purchase the 6 sets of protective clothing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor? Passes 4-0. Discussion decision regarding a wage increase for the Economic and Community Development Director position due to additional duties.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and second. Any discussion? I guess I would recommend that we go 2 steps instead of 3. Anything further?
I guess my concern is all the extra duties that you're doing now, does it take away from your normal duties that you're assigned to?
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it does, but.
Yeah. In a normal year, it wouldn't be as bad. This year, it's just we've got a lot of big projects that are going right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we've ever been as busy as we are right now, but in a normal year, it's not that bad. But as I say, we got the energy project going, we've got some other projects that take a lot of time right now. So yeah, things are extremely busy.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How come, can it be retroactive back to when he took over the duties? Why is it just from here on? Why isn't it back to when he started doing everything?
There's nothing saying it can't be.
I'm just reading what's in front of me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking, if he started at the beginning of the fiscal year, I mean, why isn't it retro?
And also, as far as how this is worded, we don't even actually know what we're voting on for the increase, so.
No, your
Well-
motion.
Yeah, my motion was to do, as it's written here, to go from 17 to 20. That was my motion.
I would hope that we would also have an effective date.
And we did on this, didn't we?
Yes, if you're fine with what's on the memo, that would be effective December 2nd. So your motion, you're saying is to go to step 20, effective December 2nd? And who is the second?
Me.
And you're good with step 20, December 2nd being your second?
Yes.
Okay.
And I understand what Gail's saying, but we know from what we received in our paperwork what the amount is and that there are sufficient funds and
If you went retro, it would be sufficient funds. the person that used to handle these duties, Randy, when he left, we had his wage in the budget, obviously. Brian being new, he makes a lot less than that. So there's sufficient funds regardless, whichever direction you guys decide to go.
Would anybody like to make it retro from July 1st, or just as it's written?
I think it should be as it's written.
I do too.
Okay, then I think, there you go.
Anything further? So we have a first and second, and I guess I'm gonna have to go off the memo, because
Yep.
that it goes to step 20, and as written, starts December 2nd. So, all in favor? All opposed? 3-1.
Can I just ask a question? I'm going to beat a dead horse.
Sure.
Why would we think it was good to go back and do retro? I'm just asking, why? Just a question. The man has done the job since July with nothing extra. We're now going forward. Why wouldn't we go back? I just don't understand it.
I don't have an answer for you, because
Because he voted no.
I voted no, so.
For me, it's, we got this paperwork, we read about it. If we read our agenda ahead of time, and I did.
Yeah.
And I want to see him get something.
Yeah.
And I could see that we have at least a majority vote to do it the way that it's written. And so I want to see him get something.
Yeah,
And
I
I
do
want
too.
to, and I don't want to fool around with anything and have him not get.
I do too, but the first time I read it was
Yeah.
today. And the first thing that popped into my head, why is it going back to July?
Yep, and I don't know, this is what we got, and I want to see him get something, so I'm happy that he's going to get
I
something.
am happy too, but I'm
Yeah.
sad that our selectmen didn't see that Jeff should get it from July to now and then continue.
Okay, discussion regarding zoning.
So, since the last time we talked about, we provided copies of the last zoning that was drafted in the 80s. And I didn't know where you guys wanted to head with this.
I'm not sure either, except that looking at this, there's a lot of things that, like, that's not going to go anywhere. So I think we would need, a lot of discussion, and I don't think we have time to do that tonight. I don't know how other people feel about it. If we had more time to look at it, maybe, I don't know if other people feel like we should have a workshop, or should we send it to the planning board to look at? Do we want to look at it? And these are all the questions that I had.
And I don't disagree with you, and I think this is kind of one of those in-depth things that it needs to kind of stand alone. So if we were gonna go forward with it, then I think a workshop would do that. I mean, this, yeah, you're right, well, that would fly. I don't believe the way this is, the information that's in this. I mean, I'm not necessarily sold on zoning myself at this point. I guess it all depends on how it was written up, so. My concern is if we go forward, that, once you get your foot in the door, then does it just keep spiraling out of control? Or, I mean, do you write it up in such a way that it's more beneficial than harmful? So, but I think it's something that needs to be I mean, it's gonna be a time-consuming thing, I think, to come up with something. I mean, some of the stuff in here, I mean, it's got some good points, but there's a lot that, yeah, I don't think would ever fly.
It's an old document.
Oh, it's,
Outdated.
no question, no question.
That's outdated.
No question.
Needs to
So,
be tweaked.
if the board wants the planning board to work on an ordinance, I would suggest that you give them some general guidance. They're the ones that are gonna work out all the nitty-gritty of this. So they really just need some general guidance. And then, you know, you work through that process.
So do we want to look at this more and have a workshop after we scribble on it and say no, and, or what, how do
I'm
you?
not interested in,
At all. Okay. Roger?
Well, it's no secret I'm for zoning. There's some good things in here and some things that can be thrown out, some things I think a workshop would be beneficial.
I mean, I think if we're gonna go forward, before it goes to the planning, then yeah, we probably should give them a little bit of direction. Because if not, we may run into what we ran into before, that they can't come to a consensus, and then it's thrown back in our lap anyway. And maybe that might help, I guess, I don't know. Again, I'm not sold on it myself, so I think we probably should do up a workshop first and see where it might go from there.
I think it would be nice too to have our other selectmen be able to weigh in with us also.
Hey, he stood us off. Too bad, no. I mean, I think if we do a workshop and then, I mean, we may at that point decide that, no, we don't want to go forward, or yay, go forward. So, I mean, I guess a workshop isn't gonna hurt. Kristen?
So, this is very interesting, because I didn't know we were discussing this, and I should have looked at my agenda. We have representatives from the National Main Street Center coming for the next, well, they'll be here the day of the next selectmen's meeting, because they're gonna be here talking to people about the facade loan, the 0% facade loan program that they're offering through the National Main Street Center. We get dinged every year, we're an accredited Main Street community, we get dinged on our point system that we have to go through, we have to self-grade ourselves, because we don't have a historic ordinance in town. And this is not something that I have time for, nor the appetite for, but it's something that I wanted to throw out there, and if you were to have a workshop on December 10th, they would be willing to come and at least tell you why a historic ordinance is something that is important to historic downtowns. So just about property values, and people want to visit historic downtowns that don't have hideous things happening to their historic buildings. So I'm just throwing that out there, that they will be here in town, and I would be sure that they would be interested in coming and spending 5 minutes telling you, or giving you guys some information to take back to the planning board about some historic information from an ordinance perspective. So,
Can we do that?
Well, we haven't even decided when we're doing the workshop yet, so. When was to do the workshop?
She said December 10th.
Well,
wink, wink.
yeah, but it's not her job to set the date, so.
She said if.
Stop trying to run the meeting. Sean?
She raised her hand.
I would just like to ask, one, first of all, the word zoning, you know, in this community, that is a tough word that a lot of people don't care to hear. And I'm not saying an opinion one way or the other. But what I would ask is that as you look at things that have to do with zoning, to look at some of those things on an individual basis and not just a broad zoning thing. Because I think if you look at it as just a broad, we're going to do zoning, there's a lot of heartache And I will tell you from being one of the people that's out there on the street, you know, that enforces some of the things that we already have, it can be tough. And when you start talking about what many people perceive as their property rights, it gets a bit nasty. So I'm just throwing that out there, and I'm just asking, you know, I just don't want to see a broad zoning thing. I think we're better, and we'll have more covenant if we tackle things on an individual basis. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. All the water's more. Thank you. We appreciate it. So, back to the date. When do we want to, I mean, obviously, if we chose to do the December 10th.
I'd like to see a workshop on December 10th.
How long would you like for this workshop to be?
I don't think we'd need very long. I mean, we probably even could at 5 o'clock.
I would suspect you're gonna need at least an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, then 4:30. I'm done.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
I'm
probably
trying
need
to
an
be-
hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, within that hour, if you, yes,
You're gonna invite the planning board to that?
no, they're gonna get it anyway, eventually. So, no, they probably, I mean,
But
they
the
can
planning
come.
board could come and, yeah.
So we've already had a joint meeting with the planning board. They know that we're talking
Right.
about it. We haven't, you know, the board hasn't decided whether to move forward or not. We're just having some general
Right.
discussions, and they're aware and were asked about the topic, so.
But if they wanted to come and sit in the public
Oh, it's
seats, they
it's
could.
an open meeting,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
December 10th, and I guess just coordinate with Christina, and I'm sure we can throw the historic ordinance portion in that.
Is that what they called it, Christine, was historic preservation or historic?
I think it depends on the town, but a historic preservation ordinance is something, yeah, that we
Okay.
get asked every year if our town has one, and then we lose 5 points.
Okay.
Why that matters to me, you know, like, I can't control what you guys do, but I'll have done my due diligence by bringing the information forward, so.
And so typically with selectmen's workshops, they don't usually allow like public comment, but
Well, this
I'm
one,
guessing.
we'll make it happen.
Yeah, so.
Well, and they're not doing public comment, they're gonna come to present.
Present.
Yes. there you
To
go.
us.
Give us information.
5 minutes.
That's right.
Anything further on the zoning issue? All right. Treasurer's warrants to be approved, an amount of $1,056,963.47.
Second.
We have first, second, all in favor? Passes. Any other business? Any unfinished business? We're still working on all those things.
Yep, working hard.
And we will sign documents, and then we're gonna go into a executive session.
Yep.